For some analysis on this now, we're now joined by Professor Hartmut Winkler, Energy Analyst, and he joins us now via our video link. Professor, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. Now, of course, Eskom there proposing to increase electricity by 36.15%. One would say that that is quite an alarming increase.
Yes, that's right. It's not just for this year, it's after that there would be further increases of 11.9% and then about 9% again. So as I mentioned in your insert, in total we would in 3 years' time be paying 66% more for electricity are paying now. Other than Eskom, I don't think anybody has actually shown any sympathy for this. So my guess is, and we expect an announcement in this coming week. That's when Nersa said they would inform us of their decision. I expect that they're not going to get that full amount. It'll probably be something, it will be more than inflation, unfortunately, and that's also been a pattern since 2007, that the electricity increases have been above inflation. So it'll probably be that again, but I don't think it'll be as excessive as it now, because as I mentioned, nobody has liked the idea, and the argument that City Power put forward is pretty much the same as you've heard from all quarters. So it's not specifically City Power that has a problem.
All right. And Professor, when it comes, to City Power's rejection of this tariff increase, would you say that it is warranted and it's in the best interest of South Africans? Like you're saying, it's above inflation.
Yes. Well, what happens is that City Power will have to effectively, to get its electricity from Eskom, they're going to have to pay for it, and City Power will get its money from the Johannesburg municipality, and the Johannesburg municipality will get it from those people, the users. So ultimately, if the increases happen, we know that given the financial circumstances that a lot of electricity users find themselves in, the municipalities are simply not going to be able to collect the necessary amount, and that's just going to trickle down the line. It's going to mean that City Power will also won't be able to match the electricity that they're going to be charged for with income lower down.
And one would say, I mean, have they even thought about the impact this will have on many families in South Africa should we see an increase of this nature?
I think that's exactly what's going to stop this from happening. On all sorts of fronts, whether it's just simple users, but it's also businesses. It's just going to put up business costs. It's going to mean that the goods are going to become, food is going to become more expensive, and so on. It's a major driver of inflation. It's also going to lead to a lot more people, those that can afford it, to start moving off the grid, or at least installing solar. And that's going to be one of the other aspects that there's going to be a lot of debate on about. Eskom and the government is trying to mitigate against this sort of situation where everybody now wants to move off the grid and just use Eskom when you end up having a cloudy day or so. So there's going to be a lot of debate about how that should all function. We're talking of very high tariffs for people that go that route. So in other words, it's all very nice when you are able to access solar power or whatever you have, or your generator, but the moment you then need Eskom, it's going to then work out to be a lot more expensive. At least that's how Eskom is arguing it. But most users don't think that this is fair, given that they've invested a fair amount of their resources into a solar system. We're going to hear a lot about that, but that's a related, but it's not actually part of this current electricity tariff hike that we're talking about. But that was the other issue which came into the City Power statement.
And what would you say is a more reasonable increase, particularly when you look at our country and the issues we've been facing when it comes to Eskom and load shedding, and many people still paying for their electricity, regardless of not having, a full round electricity available for many residents in this country?
Yes, well, Eskom argues that this is the money that they need. And let's face it, well, we're all very happy that the load shedding hasn't now been happening for 300 days or so. But all this came as some sort of a cost, because they did have to do a lot more maintenance work, a lot more repair work than they normally would have liked to. There's also a couple of major projects which are not quite finished yet, so we're not quite sure how much it's going to cost. And I'm referring to the conclusion of Kusile Power Station. There are still some units which they've been trying to finish now, plus the 3 where the flue stack collapsed, and as a result, what we're working with now is an interim solution. That's probably the main thing which has stopped us from having load shedding for this last year or so, is that they've managed to put in this interim solution to get half of Kusile Power Station. That's over 2 stages of load shedding to get that running. But that's not the final answer. They are going to have to fix it properly at some point. So Eskom, I think, is looking at that. The other factor is this Kuberg life extension. We don't know how much it's ultimately is going to cost. Initially, it was supposed to cost 21 billion. I'm pretty sure it's more than double that. So it's things like that which are, and the fact that Eskom is sitting in very high debt levels, which they have to service, is making them at least justify that in order to balance their books, they need this power increase. But of course, yes, there are other ways of doing it. But whenever you cut costs, you've got to deal with potential other shortfalls.
And Professor, you keep on saying that chances of us seeing this 36% increase when it comes to the electricity tariffs chances are it's unlikely. What type of increase then should we expect to see? Because we are facing an increase.
About half, I would say about 18%. That would be my guess. What will probably also happen is that Eskom will go to court, and it might be increased in the end, because whenever these tariff negotiations have happened in the past, that's usually what happened. Eskom hasn't been happy. They've gone and got a reevaluation, and they usually won. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But I think Nersa is probably going to announce about an 18% increase.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for your time. That is Professor Hartmut Winkler, energy analyst there, just giving us his insights in terms of the rejection of City Power to see a 36% increase, saying that he's predicting that the likelihood of us seeing an increase, chances are it will be at around 18%.